Hi, everyone. I just wanted to show you a little bit more possibilities with green screening and clarify what I was talking about the other day in class. So here you can see I recorded this green screen footage, and I can I'm gonna make a selection of the footage that I want. I can always do that by holding down Option and then the right or left bracket. So I just did the left bracket, so that's shortening that at the beginning. Or I can always, of course, drag it right here. But the hotkeys are nice to know. And I'll just clip it right here. So I'll hold down the right Option right key, right bracket, and that's good. So you can see here that I have this green tape that I put to my shirt, and the intention is like maybe this is actually a logo or something. It's not actually a green tape, but you have green material on your shirt and you don't want it to be keyed out. So what we're able to do is if I come in here and I select my green screen, that's a problem, right? Now we can see through my shirt, and that's not what we want. So what I would do, I'd probably first clean up my mat a little bit. So I'm gonna come in here, add my mask. We wanna get rid of the top, obviously. And let's look at the combined mat and come down and mess with these a little bit. So that looks better. If I go back to intermediate results, looks great, but I still have that issue where I can see through the middle of me. And maybe you might want that for a certain effect. Like maybe that's something that you could incorporate into your work somehow. But let's say that there's actually a logo that you want to keep on your shirt, or there's just something that you don't want to be keyed out, that is the color green. So what I'm going to do is just duplicate. Now I'm going to delete my key light. You can see, of course, now everything's back, but I'll take my mask that I have and just bring it in around my shirt. And so now I have my logo back, if that's what I want. But there is probably going to be a little bit of keying that we're still going to have to do, or I'm sorry, a little bit of key framing that we're going to have to do. So right here, the mask is in a good position. I'm going to hit M on the keyboard, and that pulls open my mask, and I can hit mask path to set a keyframe. Now I'll just want to move this over here. But we have this problem of up here. Now I'm getting a little bit of my green screen up here. So let's make sure that that's kind of just on the edge. Let's pull this over here and make sure that this is okay. And so obviously this isn't great if you have to do this on every single keyframe. That kind of defeats the purpose. But if there's a large sort of swath of area that you can just cover with a mask, and that's a great way to accommodate for something like this, where maybe you have to make, I don't know, 10 to 20 keyframes, and it works pretty well for your clip. But this also one of the points of this is to show that like the most important area of where we are getting a solid read on our keying is the edge, because we could always come in, like if something disappears from the middle, we can always come in and we can add a mask to it and add footage on top, add the mask, and it but the main part that's really hard to work with is this edge. Like if I had to come in here and I was actually just trying to mask out my body, like that takes a long time. So what we want to do instead is just make sure that we're getting a nice solid read on the edge and that we are able to maybe apply a layer on top. Let's also just apply, while we're thinking about it, refine hard matte and advanced spill suppressor. And that makes this read a little bit better. We get rid of that green halo. I could bump this up just a little bit more if I wanted to. I'd shift that. If we take this down, I think that eats into our image. There we go. All right, I'm gonna pause it. So the next thing I want to do, I want to show you how we could apply this to a layer in Maya or in Blender or some other 3D software. I'll be showing you Maya. So I want to export this as a PNG sequence. So I'm going to open up Media Encoder. So I'm going to change this to a PNG sequence. I've added it to Adobe Media Encoder queue. So I'll come in here, change this to, where's PNG? PNG, there we go. And hit OK. And I want to make sure I know where I'm saving it. Desktop, let's make a new folder. Example, September. And I'm going to make sure that I change the name. Let's say green screen. And I'll render. Okay, so now in my, what's this? In my folder, I have my image sequence, and I'm gonna try this first in Maya to see if this works. So I know when importing an image sequence into Maya, sometimes the first number has to start with 1 and it can't be 0. At least that's how it's been in the past. So we're going to see if we're going to need to make that adjustment. But so what I could do is I could come in here and I can make a plane. And because my PNG sequence is already square, I don't need to make any adjustments to this. So we're already doing great. But I am going to rotate this. Oops, geez. It's been a while since I've used Maya. I'll make a new material. Lambert. And go to color. File. Image name. I'm going to go to my desktop and pick September 23rd. I'm just going to start with number 1. I don't know if it will cause problems if I start with 0, 0. If you do need to make sure that you have that very first frame, you would have to rename your files. You can do that in Adobe Bridge. But I'm going to try and start with number 1. Okay, and we see that it's applied. And now, I always have a hard time finding where to check the image sequence, but we can drop this onto our object, right? Maybe. I'm going to pause and figure this out. Right, so we right click, assign material to selection right there, and then we need to make sure that the image is on. So there we go. And you can see I have transparency, but I'm still flat. Remember, that's kind of how this works. But I can move this up, rotate however I want. And let's find that button to change to the image sequence. So I believe it's over here, kind of in the attribute editor. So I've applied my Lambert 2 to my plane. I can come over here. And then if I go into color this way, yeah, I can say use image sequence. So now let's see if it plays. Yes, it plays. And I'm not 100% sure how to make it loop. I'm sure that there is a way to make it loop instead of just changing back to the solid material, but I'm also not going to try and render this. I haven't tried to render things in Maya in a long time, and that would be a mess. But those of you who are familiar with Maya, you can do that. But this is kind of how we could start to put ourselves in a scene. And if we were to add a camera and animate the camera, like say, for example, pretending that my perspective view right now is an animated camera. And I add more objects to my scene. So I could place myself within a scene that I'm creating back here. I could animate my position, have myself move forward. And if I look like I'm walking, then maybe that is more interesting than sort of just turning. I could do a lot of stuff with this. I think this should spark some creativity, I hope, if this is the way that you choose to go about using your green screen material. I can also show you how to do this in Cinema 4D very easily if anyone is interested in that. But anyways, I hope that clarifies a little bit, and talk to you all next class.